Potential. It's the best way to describe Tomb Raider Underworld. To be completely honest, Underworld is a flawed game, but I still enjoyed it. This is my first time playing Underworld, but I gotta be honest, I'm a bit confused on the modern day take that Underworld is somehow an underrated game. While it has some good qualities, it's still unpolished, it feels rushed, and it kind of wraps up the Legends trilogy in a way that felt unsatisfying to say the least. Underworld has enough flaws that anyone could bash it, but I'm actually not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to speak about the creative side of Underworld, the beauty underneath the ugly, and how Underworld's best ideas made their way into the survival series. Before I continue, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the hype button. May Jehovah God and Jesus Christ bless you all, and I hope you all enjoy the review. Now let's get the story out of the way first, as there's really not much going on here. Lara travels around the world, searching for different ruins that represent the underworld of different mythologies. She's still looking for her mother and Avalon from the previous games. She also needs Thor's hammer in order to find Helheim, which is the Norse mythology version of Hell. That's the sum of everything, and the best part of the story are all the moments where Lara is just having fun exploring ruins and putting the pieces of the puzzle together that her father started before her. When it came to the villains, Amanda, Natla, and Evil Lara, they all just kind of felt out of place to me. As far as the villains' motives go, these three weren't fleshed out, and if you didn't play the games before this one, you wouldn't even know anything about them. Even with my knowledge, I still don't know why Natla wants to reshape the world or why Amanda is trying to find Avalon. And turning the doppelganger from Anniversary into Emo Lar was unexpected. It's still the most DeviantArt-fueled fan fiction that I've ever seen put in a game. She does look cool, however, but this is just so cliche that my brain couldn't even process it as it was happening around me. The reason why I believe things felt so strange with the story is because almost every story beat in the game just flies by and it clearly feels rushed. Who blew up Lara's mansion? Zip puts the blame on Lara, and it's painted like a big reveal will happen later on, but in actuality, just in a few minutes later, they reveal to you that it's Dark Lara that did it. So the mystery is solved, which is weird because why set it up like it's going to be some type of mystery when you're just going to tell me who it was like a few seconds later? The craziest one is Lara's mom. She's been searching for her for 3 games now. And after all the things that Lara has done and all the sacrifices made to search for her mother, she sees that her mom is just a zombie now, which I would think would cause some type of mental distraught, but that's not what happens. Lara just quickly accepts that her mother's like the undead and just moves on. Okay, that was kind of pointless and felt weird. Lara was about to blow Amanda's head off because she didn't tell her what happened to her mom. And now she just quickly accepts that her mother's a zombie. She doesn't really flip out about it. She just takes her out and goes on about her life. Natla also felt rushed because Lara made sure to get Thor's hammer, not only to find her mom, but she needed it to kill Natla. And at the end of the game, she just casually bonks her upside the head with the hammer. Like, she doesn't make sure that she's dead. She doesn't confirm the kill, which is weird because not only did Natla kill one of Lara's friends, technically with the doppelganger, but Natla wants to destroy the entire world. And she was just so big on this, I need Thor's hammer to take her out because Natla's kind of like a god or something like that in this world. And it just, I'm like, okay, you tried to kill her before and she didn't die. They unsealed her thousands of years ago before Lara was born. She's still alive. And instead of confirming the kill, you just throw a hammer at her head and just go about your life. This hammer produces thunder and lightning from it. And she just bunks her upside the head with it. Whatever. And at the end, Amanda and Lara save one another. And Lara, in so many words, just tells Amanda to grow up because Amanda's like still trying to kill her or something like that. But they end up just going their own separate ways. While Lara, who was obsessed with her mother's passing and even felt guilty for it, just again moves on. I just thought all this was just too quick, too fast. I felt like there should have been a third game. I really don't want to count Anniversary as the third game, but technically it is. And that's probably the problem. Maybe Anniversary shouldn't have been a part of this series, or maybe it should have been like a bonus 4th game that tied everything together, because it just felt like the true legend story wasn't told because they tried to make Anniversary be a part of it, and it just didn't work out. So, yeah, the story sucks, but at least we got some of the best cutscenes in a Tomb Raider game with one of the best looking Laras. I love this design of Lara because she feels like a good fusion of the original Lara from the original games, the CGI model, but also she has some of the different features that the Legends version of Lara has as well. This is probably the best looking model of Lara Croft I've seen. Now that we got the worst part of the game out the way, let's get into the true potential of Underworld, which is found in its gameplay. To be clear, this game has similar issues to Tomb Raider Legends. It lacks polish, it has bugs, and the devs also put too many options in front of the player, which can cause confusion at times, but thankfully, there is enough good here to balance out the problems. Where this game shines is in its experimental design. Underworld has big environments that play with the same ideas that were present in the Croft Manor levels from the previous games. Each dungeon is big enough for the player to choose which piece of the puzzles they want to complete first. In the first dungeon, for example, I didn't know how to move this gear. So I went to the other side and completed that part first. When I returned, Jehovah God and Jesus Christ helped me to understand what I need to do here. Something similar happened to me in the Mexico ruins. I needed to control these two switches to open the way to the dungeon below, but I needed some artifacts to achieve this. There are multiple switches in this level, and the game allows the player to tackle this in whichever order they want. Jehovah God and Jesus Christ reminded me that this level of freedom was actually common in the past Tomb Raider games. It was just so a part of the DNA that I really never thought about it. And it was the Legend series that made things more on rails, more straightforward. And Underworld tried to tap back into the past games by giving the player freedom to tackle puzzles in different orders. A cool idea that might only be in Underworld are these two gigantic underwater levels. These water segments are mostly linear, as the only thing that you can do here is complete the main puzzle, find some collectibles, and get eaten by sharks. Even though there isn't much going on here, it's still a highlight of the game because these levels are so impressive to me. Opening up the game with an underwater level is a death sentence for any other game, but Underworld killed it by making the swimming controls and underwater combat easy to grasp. I actually wanted more underwater sea levels, but this cool idea is just another example of the potential Underworld oozes out. Now, going back to level design, Underworld finally blended the platforming and the environment into one cohesive style. In the Legend series, I could either easily tell what could be grabbed in the world, or sometimes the game would lean to the other side and make things blend in so much that I couldn't tell what I was supposed to grab on at all. I would imagine that it's not easy to make a world that looks realistic while also wanting the player to be able to easily read what they can or can't interact with, which is why so many games today use yellow paint. But they actually managed to strike a good balance in Underworld. We will see this level of artistry evolve in the Survival series, which does the same thing but better. As far as Lara goes, this is the most acrobatic we've ever seen her. She can climb walls, balance on pillars and ropes, swing from poles, and she can even perch on them like a superhero. Lara's skills and abilities are pushed to new heights, and it's just fun to watch her go. But it's not all sunshines and rainbows. Like I said, there are many times where two or more options could be in front of the player, and you could find yourself trying something that seems possible, like it seems logical that Lara should be able to do something, but it's just not the solution, as this game is actually very strict when it comes to the order that you're supposed to move around these environmental puzzles. For example, in one of my favorite levels, I had to escape this pit, but in order to do so, Lara has to pull these levers that causes the floor to fill up with this. I don't know what this stuff is, honestly. It's like basically blue lava. Just don't touch it or you'll die. Now, what you're supposed to do is awkwardly climb this rope and make the jump to this ledge with no momentum behind it, which, if you don't know, she probably couldn't make that jump if she didn't at least swing a bit, but that's what you're supposed to do. That's what's intended. Now, what got me stuck here for so long were these grabbable ledges in the distance. You see, I could swing and almost make it to these ledges, but she just wouldn't grab hold. And that's because that's not the way the devs intended you to go, but it seemed like I could do it. So I kept on trying and I kept on dying. Only Jehovah God and Jesus Christ knows how many times I've tried to make this jump, and a little bit of me wish it was possible, but I'm telling you, like, if it is, it's not intended, because anytime I will almost make this jump, I could feel like the game kind of like gravitating me away from the ledges. It was very weird. So clearly this is not something you're supposed to do, but it just seemed like it just seemed right. It seems like you're supposed to do this, and it would have been cool if you could. To escape the Mexico ruin, you need to jump across this gap. But if you look at this tiny little ramp, it reads as if Lara couldn't possibly make it. So I looked around for another way out. But Jehovah God and Jesus Christ showed me that this actually was the way. Now, my brain said, how in the world is Lara going to make this jump with barely any room to drive her motorcycle and make it across this gap with this little itty bitty ramp? What happens is that the game artificially boosts Lara up, which how in the world is anyone supposed to know that? And how will anyone be able to read that through anything in the environment? So although God didn't leave me stuck here for too long, I only didn't go this way because this is the only way in here and this is the only way out of here. The only reason I look for another way around thinking like there's something I'm supposed to lift up is because who would look at this and think this is possible? Another example was in Thailand. I got stuck on this puzzle and I was trying to get up to this area that I couldn't reach. Now, remember what I said about like how strict this game is? This is a perfect example of that. See, I was going in a direction that the devs weren't expecting me to. So again, they use some type of artificial force that gives Lara an extra boost during platforming, but it actually turned me around in midair because I suppose they intended me to jump from the other direction so that the boost could activate. But because I'm jumping against it, it makes me flip around. And I was dumbfounded when I saw this. I just did it like a few more times because I couldn't believe she's just literally turning around in midair. I'm not doing that. The game is doing it on its own. I just jump forward and she just turns around and goes right back. It's really funny. Now, these issues are all throughout Underworld, which does suck because it brings down the great puzzles and platforming. The tower climb at the end of the game was genius and didn't have any of these issues. So that shows me that if this game would just polish a little bit more, it would have been phenomenal. Well, maybe not that story. That needs a whole nother redo. That story just not good. You have to climb all the way up the tower while activating these switches while you go back down the tower. Another favorite of mine was Thor's lair. Lara has to work her way through these rooms and swing on these giant hammers that adds momentum to Lara's jumps, sending her flying across the room. Now, funny enough, I did get stuck here on one of these puzzles. You have to wall jump up these moving weights, then quickly climb to the other side before you fall. Now, my dumb self kept trying to run across these moving chains, but Jehovah God and Jesus Christ showed me how to do it. While I was thinking to stand on top of the moving chain and run across it, what you're supposed to do is hang below it and tap the Y button, and then she'll move across the chain faster than normal. Again, Underworld is full of great ideas, but oftentimes I got lost because things became unclear or something that seemed like it could work just didn't. And because it kind of almost seemed like it's supposed to work that way, I kept trying to do it over and over and over again until I realized I couldn't, or God had to save me out of it. Even in the very first level, or rather the real first level, after Lara gets robbed of Thor's gauntlet, I didn't realize I was supposed to backtrack to the boat. Because in this cutscene, it seems like I was supposed to be chasing after the bad guys, which you technically still are doing, but it seemed like he went in his room and I was like looking for the room, but every time it would lead me back to the entrance of this location. And I didn't know what was going on. I was like, am I doing something wrong? Aren't I supposed to chase him? But then Jehovah God and Jesus Christ helped me out here and basically showed me that I'm supposed to go all the way back to the boat. I was only confused because, again, this cutscene and just how it's laid out, it makes it appear like you're supposed to follow after him, but really you're supposed to go all the way back to the beginning of the level. It's just kind of strange. And speaking of confusion and Thor's gauntlet, there's a level where you have to go to the end of this giant platform and push it with his gauntlet. But every other object in the game that I remember that allows you to push with Thor's gauntlet has this symbol. And unless I missed this symbol, I didn't see how I was supposed to know that I'm supposed to go all the way to the end and push it. Matter of fact, there's a secret in this same level, in this same area that has that symbol I'm talking about. And it's kind of odd to put it near a secret and not near the main objective, because I know what you're going to say. This entire platform is lighting up with these blue streaks that lets you know that you can move it with Thor's gauntlet. But technically, when you go over to where the secret is, it moves it there too. So I'm thinking I'm supposed to do something over there, but really I'm supposed to go all the way to this, again, this end of this platform and push it from over here on this other side. And it was just kind of weird. Now, it just sounds like I don't like Underworld, but even though it sounds that way, that's only because I have to be honest and tell you about the bugs, the glitches, and the issues. Because in truth, past these things, and yes, the game is still worth playing past these things, you're rewarded with creative ideas, and I just wish they were better executed. That's all I'm really trying to say. Like, for example, they brought Lara's bike back, and they used it for exploration and puzzles, similar to how they used to do it in the classic series. I really love that idea. Lara can smash objects now, and although most of the collectibles in the game are in these jars, which is kind of lazy, the system was fleshed out in the survival series where Lara will mess with a bunch of objects and you can smash them up there, so I give them credit for starting it here. Lara can remove poles from walls and place them into new locations, and I really love this idea and wish it was used more in the series. She can move objects around the world and use her grappling hook to wrap around heavy blocks and use the weight to pull them around. The physics in Underworld are impressive, and I just wish we had more of it in the game. Lara and the world around her feels more alive than ever, especially with these physics, and some of the best puzzles wouldn't have been possible without them. So yes, the puzzles have bugs and glitches, and that can get in the way of the enjoyment, but not to the point where I would write it off. This game has a lot of creative puzzles, it's still fun to play, and still platform around with Lara Croft, and for that I enjoy Underworld. Now the combat though, okay. See, the combat has some cool ideas, but falls short due to, well, a clunky camera, dumb enemy AI, and overall it just lacks challenge. The lock-on aiming is back from the Legend series, but has an entirely too close pull on Lara's side. I guess it was trying to be like third person to the side camera angle. I don't know why they did that, but whatever. This obviously makes everything harder to see when you're aiming, especially seeing as most of the bad guys in the game are these fast-moving animals. And on a side note, there are a bunch of tiny little bugs that pop up that don't put up much of a fight, and they just felt like filler. I don't even know why they were here. Now, the AI for the animals are mostly fine. I mean, they just kind of aggro at you, but that's kind of what you would expect animals to do. But the human enemies, those are the ones that are dumb. You will be surprised to know how many times these guys would just kind of stand there and do mostly nothing most of the time. Now, the interesting thing is when you see them in certain environments where animals pop up, you might see them actually fighting the animals, which is actually pretty cool. But when it comes to fighting Lara, they just get stage fright and don't do anything. Lara, for the first time, can actually aim at two different enemies while dual wielding, which is awesome. And it's crazy it took this long for the series to come up with this. But again, the bad guys don't put up much of a fight. So the wrath of Lara Croft is just unwarranted when it comes to fighting these pushovers. Lara can toss grenades now. She can kick bad guys while locked on, which is kind of the precursor to the melee system that was in the Tomb Raider reboot. And she has this new adrenaline meter. Now, as you deal damage, her adrenaline builds up, which allows her to do this slow-mo flip into a headshot. And this blends actually the two systems from the Legends games before it, Tomb Raider Legends and Tomb Raider Anniversary. Both had different special combat systems and they blended them into one, and it looks cool, but again, the enemies don't put up much of a fight, so it doesn't really matter. And once again, this camera is just too zoomed in, so it can get in the way, so you can't even see some of the cool flips that Lara is doing. And going back to that adrenaline meter, I guess they were trying to balance the game out by even having that, because you got to remember, in Anniversary, Lara to trigger her headshot thing, all you had to do was dodge at a certain time, and she would do it. When it came to flipping off enemies in Legends and doing a slow-mo kill, you could do that whenever you wanted to. So I guess they were trying to balance the game out, but they really don't, because again, the enemies don't put up a fight, and then this meter just fills up super fast anyway, so you always have it anyway. It's just kind of like a pointless addition. Now, when you get your hands on Thor's hammer, it's when you're going to be wrecking a lot of havoc, and it's really fun to just watch all these bad guys go flying thanks to the physics system. And you can actually take out the undead in this game, and I really enjoyed this stomp mechanic because otherwise they'll just keep popping up. And stomping them out actually feels just as satisfying, if not more, because Lara does like this flip when she does it. It feels as good as it does to stomp people out in gears as it does here. It's just really good. And I don't know why this is so satisfying, but it's just so cool to watch Lara flip and just stomp someone out. It's just awesome. There are other small additions like Lara can shoot from her bike, which is cool, but again, the enemies don't put up a fight, so who cares? And she can actually select the weapon she wants before each mission. Now, this is cool, but it's weird because one, you can get a tranquilizer, and there's no moment in this game where stealth is needed, so I didn't know why this gun was added. I understand the harpoon being here because you need that to fight the sharks, but you really don't because you kind of outrunning them, and I think you could just shoot them with your pistols too, but it's not as effective. But the idea of picking a loadout was actually interesting, and it just felt like, again, a weird idea that maybe wasn't fleshed out because outside of it just being a choice, which is always cool, it felt like it was supposed to be more than that. Like it was supposed to be, you knew what type of mission you were going on, you wanted to choose a certain weapon for a certain job, but honestly, it just boiled down to Tomb Raider Legends allow Lara to pick up guns. And I think they wanted the player to have the option to have more than just her pistols on her. But instead of just giving the player the option to pick up a enemy's gun, which you cannot do, they just let you choose an extra gun alongside your dual wielding pistols. And then there's no extra ammo for these guns. You can't pick up ammo. It reads as if every gun has infinite ammo, but one time I ran out of ammo for my assault rifle. It was very confusing. Again, I don't know. This is the one thing you need to understand about this game. Even though I love stuff about it, I can't detect what's a bug, what's unfinished, what's a glitch, what's intentional, and it just don't make sense. You can't tell because the game is so buggy and it feels unfinished that you don't know left from right. So if I'm not understanding something, it's because of those reasons. Now back to some positivity. Underworld deserves its flowers when it comes to introducing cinematic platforming into the series. Moments like the boat escape feels like the blueprint to similar moments that would be found in the reboot. The crafty way of blending the platforming into the environment in a realistic way and the bigger levels all started in the Legend series, but it was mastered in the Survival series. I always said that the Croft Manor levels felt like Metroidvanias, with Lara exploring different rooms while needing new gadgets to fully get around. The reboot series brought the Metroidvania gameplay over by using these mini hub worlds, and Lara's ever-evolving equipment to revisit past locations to unlock previously restricted areas. And Tomb Raider Underworld played a critical role in what the Tomb Raider reboot series will become. Now, I'll be a liar if I sit here and say that Tomb Raider Underworld was some underrated masterpiece that the critics misunderstood. It sits around the high 70s on Metacritic, and I think that's about right, give or take. The game is buggy at times and confusing. The combat was lacking, and although the greatest parts of Underworld was found in its puzzles and platforming, it was actually brought down by those same bugs and confusing moments. See, in life, there's this thing called failing up. That's when you lose but learn from your mistakes to make a better decision in the future. The Legend series was just that. There was one game that was great, while the rest of them fell short at times. But Crystal Dynamics and Lara's marriage isn't over yet. What came next was the best trilogy in the franchise since the first 3 games. It's not over until Jehovah God says it's over. And as long as we all can learn and evolve from our mistakes, we too can survive any storm.